The man standing next to him was, of course, the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and the Vice President joins us now. Mr. Vice President, welcome to the show. Very good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Stuart. Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to start with this headline from the New York Times today. It says, lockdown delays cost at least 36,000 lives, data show. What's your response to that, bearing in mind what we heard from Governor DeSantis?
Well, I was in Florida yesterday with Governor DeSantis. I'll be in Georgia tomorrow. And because of the leadership that President Trump provided, starting in January, when he suspended all travel from China, when he stood up the White House Coronavirus Task Force, began screening passengers from China, and then, as you know, Stuart, we eventually closed down travel from Europe, screened passengers from Italy and South Korea. We bought an extraordinarily important amount of time so that in early March, we actually had only some 14 cases of domestic transmission, of actual spread in the United States. But even though most experts in early March were suggesting that the risk was low to Americans, it would be on March 15th. The President made again an unprecedented decision to put the health and safety of America first. We published 15 days to slow the spread, and because of what the American people have done, not for 15 days, but for those 45 days, we're now in a position where all 50 states have begun to reopen this economy. Cases are going down. Most importantly, fatalities are going down. Even as we scale more and more testing, the positive rate is declining around the country. Okay. It's a tribute to the President's leadership. It's a tribute to the American people, the sacrifices that they've made. But what I saw in Florida yesterday is the American people are ready to get back to work, and they know that we can do it in a safe and responsible way.
We've been reporting on what we call a revolt all around the country, business owners defying lockdown orders and opening up and taking the consequences. It's a revolt. Do you support that revolt?
Well, look, we believe in freedom in this country, and the American people were willing to put the health of their family members, their neighbors, especially the most vulnerable among us, seniors with serious underlying health conditions, first. The American people made the sacrifices necessary, and I have no doubt that, modeling on the front pages this morning notwithstanding, that the actions that President Trump took in January, the actions that he took every day forward, the actions the American people took in those 45 days did slow the spread. There's no question that we bent the curve, we saved lives, and even though we grieve the loss of more than 93,000 Americans, our families are on our hearts. They will always be in our prayers. I know what the American people did made a difference so that more families would be spared that grief and that heartache. And now we know how to continue to step forward. And I have to tell you, I spoke to the governor of Arkansas yesterday. You know, all retail operations are open in his state. The American people are demonstrating that we're willing to do what it took to protect people's health and well-being, to respond to the President's leadership, to the leadership of governors around the country. But now the American people are calling for a restoration of our economy. And remember, Stuart, and your viewers know this because you've covered it so well, this is not a choice between the health of the American public and the economy. This is a choice between health and health. A growing economy contributes to the physical and emotional well-being of the American public. And I can tell you, visiting and delivering supplies to a nursing home in Florida yesterday with Governor DeSantis, stopping by a local burger place and grabbing a hamburger in Florida yesterday, having the opportunity to meet with these incredible tourist and attraction companies in Florida like Disney and SeaWorld and Universal. There have been real world impacts people are feeling right now, and they know the best thing we can do for America is to safely and responsibly reopen our country and put America back to work. And we're going to partner with every governor to give them the data, the information, and the guidance to do that responsibly.
Mr. Vice President, I have to ask the mask question, because today President Trump will visit a Ford plant in Michigan. He didn't wear a mask last week when he toured a medical supply company in Pennsylvania. Lots of comment about that. Do you have any knowledge as to whether he'll wear a mask today, since all of the Ford employees are required to wear a mask?
Well, the president made it clear that he would make that decision on a situational basis, and I'm very confident the president will take the guidance of the White House physicians about what's most appropriate. I mean, we put no higher priority than on the health and well-being of the President of the United States of America as he continues to lead this nation. I'm sure he'll comply with the guidance from White House physicians and maintain the kind of practice today as he visits that incredible facility in Michigan that's playing such a vital role in standing up the resources that we've needed to respond. You know, it is an amazing thing to think about it, Stuart, because I had a chance to visit GE Healthcare in Wisconsin. I had a chance to visit a facility in Indiana that we brought together with General Motors, with GE, and now with Ford, as the president will reflect today, that are now building ventilators. We'll actually have 110,000 ventilators constructed in 100 days. And I think it's nothing short of a national accomplishment that no American who required a ventilator in this country was ever denied a ventilator. Because of this president's leadership, we stood up the equipment, we stood up the supplies, we've scaled testing all across the country, and as we see cases going down, positive rates going down, most importantly, fatalities going down around the country, it's a tribute to the American people, tribute to governors around the country, but this incredible private sector that you talk about every day stepped forward and delivered for the American people, and I think every American should be proud.
And Mr. Vice President Mike Pence, thank you very much for joining us, sir. It really is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.